Hello everyone, and welcome to English with History channel. I'm your host John, and I'm happy to have you here with me today. On this podcast, we explore the lives of important people from history, and at the same time, we help you improve your English. Today's episode is about a truly inspiring person, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He was a leader in the American civil rights movement and became a symbol of peace, equality, and hope for millions. So, get comfortable and listen closely. Let's begin the story of a man who changed the world, with words, not weapons. Let's start at the beginning of Martin Luther King Jr.'s life. He was born on January 15th, 1929 in Atlanta, Georgia, in the United States. His birth name was Michael King Jr., but his father later changed both their names to Martin Luther King in honor of a famous German religious leader. Martin grew up in a strong and loving family. His father was a Baptist minister and his mother was a school teacher. Faith and education were very important in his home. From an early age, Martin was taught to believe in God, to love learning, and to stand up for what is right. But even as a child, Martin saw the unfair treatment of black people in America. He couldn't play with white children in his neighborhood because of the segregation laws. He felt hurt and confused, but these experiences made him want to fight for equality and justice. Martin was also a very intelligent student. He skipped 2 grades in school, and by the age of 15, he entered Morehouse College, a respected college for black men in Atlanta. There, he studied sociology, which is the study of how people live and work together in society. After college, Martin decided to become a minister like his father. He went to seminary to study theology, which means the study of religion, faith, and spiritual beliefs. He was a great speaker and loved helping people through his words. Later, he continued his studies and earned a PhD in theology from Boston University in 1955. This is when he officially became Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. By the time he was only 26 years old, he had become a highly educated, well-respected young man, ready to lead a movement that would change American history. Now let's move to the 1950s, a time when life was very difficult for black Americans, especially in the southern parts of the United States. Back then, racism and segregation were everywhere. Segregation means keeping people apart based on their skin color. Black people were not allowed to sit in the same sections as white people on buses, eat at the same restaurants, or even use the same bathrooms and water fountains. They were treated as second-class citizens, and it was completely unfair. Then, in 1955, something happened that would change history. In the city of Montgomery, Alabama, a black woman named Rosa Parks made a brave decision. She was riding a public bus when a white man came on board. At that time, black passengers had to give up their seats to white passengers, but Rosa refused. She stayed in her seat, and for that, she was arrested. This moment sparked huge protest, known as the Montgomery bus boycott. And guess who became the leader of that protest? Yes, Martin Luther King Jr. At just 26 years old, he stood in front of crowds and called for nonviolent resistance. He asked people to stop riding the buses to show they would not accept unfair laws. The boycott lasted for 381 days, more than a year. People walked to work, shared cars, or found other ways to travel. It was not easy, but they stayed strong and united. Finally, the US Supreme Court made a decision. Segregation on public buses was illegal. The law had to change. This victory gave people hope, and it showed the power of peaceful protest. It was just the beginning of a much larger movement for civil rights, and Martin Luther King Jr. was now a national leader. After the success of the Montgomery bus boycott, Martin Luther King Jr. continued to lead the fight for civil rights, but he chose a very special way to do it. Dr. King believed in something called nonviolent resistance. This means standing up to injustice without using anger, hate, or violence. He believed that love, peace, and calm strength could bring real, lasting change. His ideas were inspired by Mahatma Gandhi, the leader of India's independence movement. Gandhi had used nonviolence to fight against British rule in India, and won. Martin believed that the same strategy could work in the United States. So instead of fighting with fists or weapons, Dr. King organized marches, rallies, and peaceful protests. People walked through streets, carried signs, and sang songs. They didn't fight back, even when they were yelled at or attacked. They showed the world that they were peaceful, but powerful. Dr. King also gave many important speeches. He spoke with passion and hope. His words made people believe that a better future was possible. The most famous of all his speeches was the "I Have a Dream" speech. He gave this speech in Washington, D.C. on August 28, 1963. It happened during the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. More than 250,000 people came from all over the country to listen to him speak in front of the Lincoln Memorial. And in that powerful speech, he said, "I have a dream that one day all people will be treated equally." He spoke about a future where children of all races could play together, go to school together, and live in peace. These words touched millions of hearts. The speech became a symbol of hope, unity, and change, not only in America, but around the world. To this day, the "I Have a Dream" speech is studied in schools and remembered as one of the greatest speeches in history. It reminded everyone that peaceful voices, when united, can shake the world. In 1964, Martin Luther King Jr. received one of the highest honors in the world, the Nobel Peace Prize. He was just 35 years old at the time, which made him the youngest person ever to win this important award. The Nobel Peace Prize is given to people who work hard to bring peace and justice to the world. Dr. King accepted the prize with great humility, and he decided to give the prize money to support the civil rights movement. He wanted the money to help continue the fight for equality and justice for all people. That same year, an important law was passed in the United States, the Civil Rights Act of 1964. This law made it illegal to treat people unfairly because of their skin color, race, religion, or national origin. It was a huge step forward in the fight against discrimination and segregation. This victory showed that Dr. King's peaceful protests and powerful words were making a real difference. Even after winning the Nobel Peace Prize, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. did not stop working for justice. He focused on helping poor people and fighting against unfair housing laws that made life difficult for many black families. He also spoke out strongly against the Vietnam War, believing that war and violence were wrong. Dr. King wanted peace, not only in America but all over the world. However, not everyone agreed with his ideas. Some people were angry about the changes he wanted to bring. And sadly, on April 4th, 1968, something tragic happened. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was shot and killed while standing on a balcony in Memphis, Tennessee. He was only 39 years old, very young, with much more to give. His death shocked the entire world. Many people felt deep sadness and anger. But even though he was gone, his message of peace, hope, and equality did not die. Dr. King's dream of a better, fairer world continued to inspire millions of people everywhere. His life reminds us that one person can make a big difference, even in the face of great challenges. Today, Martin Luther King Jr. is remembered as one of the greatest heroes in modern history. In the United States, his birthday is celebrated every year in January as a national holiday called Martin Luther King Jr. Day. It's a day to remember his message of peace, equality, and hope, and to reflect on how we can continue his work. His words are still powerful, even today. His famous speech, "I Have a Dream," is often shared in schools and public events. His dream of a world without hate, racism, or discrimination continues to inspire people all over the globe. Many schools, streets, parks, and buildings have been named after him, not just in America, but in other countries too. This shows how deeply his message touched the hearts of millions. Dr. King taught the world that one person with courage, vision, and love can create real change, no matter how big the challenge. His legacy reminds us to keep believing, keep speaking up, and never stop working for justice. Before we end today's episode, let's take a moment to review some important English words and phrases we talked about. These words are useful not only for understanding history, but also for building your English vocabulary. Segregation. This means the separation of people based on race or skin color. For example, segregation kept black and white students in separate schools. Nonviolent resistance. This is when people fight for justice without using violence. For example, Martin Luther King Jr. believed in nonviolent resistance to change unfair laws. Civil rights. These are the rights that all people should have, like being treated equally under the law. For example, the civil rights movement helped win civil rights for African Americans. Boycott. To refuse to use or buy something as a way to protest. For example, people boycotted the buses in Montgomery to fight segregation. Assassination, the killing of an important person, often for political reasons. For example, Doctor. King's assassination shocked people all over the world. Now it's your turn. Try using these words in your own sentences. You can even write them down or say them out loud to practice. The more you use them, the more confident you'll become in your English. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of English with History. I hope you learned something new, not only about the inspiring life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., but also some useful English words and expressions. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to subscribe, like, and share it with your friends or classmates. And don't forget to leave a comment below. What did you find most inspiring about Martin Luther King Jr.? Your feedback helps others discover the podcast and helps us grow as a community of learners and history lovers. I'm John, and I'll be back soon with another episode where we'll keep learning English through the power of history. Until next time, take care, stay curious, and keep learning. Goodbye, everyone. Hi.